In this video we shall talk about requirements testing techniques. Of course, a lot of obvious techniques like discussing, thinking and so on were mentioned in previous videos. But there are some specific techniques like peer review, asking questions, writing checklists, visualizations, modeling and prototyping, and now we shall review these techniques in details. So, what is peer review? As usual, here is an official definition. The idea is simple. Imagine there are at least two people, person A and person B. One person creates a work, then he passes his work to the person B, and that person B reviews the work. He doesn't make any corrections, he only marks those places, those suspicious places, that he thinks contain some defects. And then he returns the work back to the author, to the person A. In most documentation on software testing you may find three levels, three types of peer review. Let's start from the top, walk through. This is just a quick feedback from colleagues. That's the idea we mentioned a couple of seconds before. There is person A and person B and maybe person C, person D, so they may pass their work to each other and then get it back from the reviewer. It's quick, simple, it doesn't require any special preparation, any special techniques or tools. Usually, of course, there are only two people, person A and person B, so as you can see, it is easy to guess, this is the most common approach. Technical review requires several people to review one document. And only after each person says it's okay with the document, this document is considered to be okay. But if even one person says it's not okay, the document is not considered to be okay. And the author or even group of authors has to rework the document until that person also says it's okay. That's the second level. Third, and the rarest, is formal inspection. This is a really formal, sophisticated, systematical approach with a lot of specialists following special procedures and so on and so on. The next analogy is not really true, but just imagine it's some kind of rocket science. So it's really rare, and it happens in the following situation. Situation 1, a good situation. For instance, we are working on a project that requires some specific certification and so on. So we may hire external reviewers, an external audit firm, and those auditors review our requirements, our process, and say everything is okay. The second typical situation is a bad one. When we have some broken set of requirements. Maybe it's our fault, or maybe we received that project from our predecessor that failed the project. But we cannot work with bad requirements. We need them to be good. So we are performing the formal inspection to make bad requirements good again. The next powerful technique is asking questions. The idea is rather simple. If something bothers you, you don't understand something, you need some clarification or some information, ask a question. Do not just sit and imagine something, ask for information. If for some reason everything is good and that's a false alarm, it's okay. But usually, if you want to ask a question, you just found some problem in some documentation, for instance, in requirement. The main challenge here is to develop the skill of asking good questions. Imagine such a bad requirement. The app should start fast. So some may ask bad questions like how fast. What do you expect to hear? Extremely fast, as fast as possible, and so on. That's bad questions. Or what if it wouldn't start fast? Once again, do you want to upset the customer or make him angry or what? And even worse, always? Yes, always. All those questions are bad. But with some experience, you'll learn to ask good questions. What differs a good question from a bad one? Good question always provides us in its answer with some good information. When we get the answer to all these questions, we receive some new useful information, and we may rewrite, reorganize, rework the requirements and make them better. So, asking questions is a very important skill for software testing specialists. If you have the skill, good for you. If for some reason you do not have such skill for now, it's not so good. So, ask questions. Learn how to ask questions. Learn how to ask good questions. That will improve your professionalism very much. The next technique is writing checklists. You should ask yourself, how should I test the requirement? Are there some tests that show objectively that this requirement is implemented correctly? Of course, even if you have a lot of ideas in mind, that's good, but that may be not enough, because a requirement may be somehow outdated, inconsistent, and so on. So use any other technique to check that. But if you have no ideas at all, that's the reason to investigate the situation deeper, gather more information, ask more questions. Maybe you just do not have some useful information and other people will provide you with that information. That's okay, investigation closed. But if there is a problem, you may get some information that will help you fix that problem. The next technique is visualization. You may use some schemas or something like that either to see the whole big picture or to drill into details. Imagine that you may zoom this picture and see each table, fields, and so on. Here is the schema of some small database, something about 50 tables or something like that. And that's UML diagram. Of course, you may use hand drawings with paper, pen, whiteboard, and so on. You can use diagram in any notation, schema in any notation, mind maps, concept maps. If you do not know what a mind map is and what a concept map is, please Google it, there is a lot of information available. So you may use any visualization technique you need. Most people like this approach, most people see things more clearly when they actually see things. So just give it a try, it's free. And the final idea here, modeling and prototyping. It may be mental simulation, just thinking about how data may flow between some modules or how the program paths will be executed, and so on. Both prototyping and modeling, of course, may require some special tools, some special knowledge, but these techniques may save you a lot of time and effort. So the more complex situation you are dealing with, the more useful those approaches are. And finally, it doesn't matter what techniques or what combination of what techniques do you use. The main idea is to improve requirements. So if you use something that helps, it's okay, use it. But try from time to time some another technique to enrich your professionalism.